Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time today joining us on this webinar sponsored by DALIM Software. My name is Isabelle Bilreriel, and I am the European Business Developer Director at DALIM Software. Today's webinar is about DAM and Boden testimonial, and to be more precise, where DAM fit into the digital ecosystem at Boden. Boden is the leading British clothing retailer. We will learn a little bit later about it. We have the pleasure to welcome two great DAM experts with us today, who will be sharing with us the experience and knowledge about DAM implementation. Let me first introduce to you the panelists. Karen Philipson, who has implemented the DAM at Boden. Karen is a studio manager and has more than 12 years experience in the creative world and content management. She will be sharing with us Boden's DAM journey, including objectives, challenges and tips to successfully deploy a DAM project. We also have around the table Frederic Sanui, who is Director of Marketing at DALIM Software. You can regularly meet with Fred at every Henry Stewart events. He's a DAM expert with 15 years experience at agencies. But obviously, you will hear more about the background in the upcoming minutes from both of them. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. You can see on the Go to Webinar panel section where you can ask questions. Please submit any question that you may have to either one of our panelists through this webinar. We will answer to as many of these questions at the end of the presentation. I think now it's time to start. So first start is Karen Philipson. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Isabelle. So yes, a little bit about us at Boden and myself. So Karen Philipson, I'm the Creative Operations Manager at Boden. I have been working there for 12 years, long time, starting as an art worker, moved into a studio management role, and I am now responsible for the creative teams, looking after their processes and all the systems that they used. So far, I have implemented a content management system for our catalog versioning and translation for all markets, a project management system for managing all the marketing briefs that go through the creative teams, and very recently, a digital asset management system, of which I will go through with you. So a little bit about our brand. Boden is a British brand which was founded in 1991 by Joni Boden. As a brand, our purpose is to bring joy to our customers around the world, surprising and delighting them in all that we do. Obviously, our photography is a very big part in achieving that. So this is why we needed a DAM. In terms of a quick timeline, put this story about Boden. So as I said, it started in 1991 as a mail order catalog with eight menswear pieces. We quickly moved and added women's wear to the range, followed 4 years later by a mini range for the kids. It's in 1999 that we went digital with a boden.com email address. And from then on, we became international. We started with the US in 2002, followed by Germany in 2007, then Germany, and quickly France. We also became multi-channel from 2009, starting with collaboration with Nordstrom, where we started selling our mini range. Then we joined forces very recently with John Lewis, where you can find us in their concession, and also now in China. So that is a marketplace through Tmall. So this is for a quick history. Now about our customer. We call her internally as Kate Richmond, and our customer is aged between 30 and 50-year-old, but we focus on 30 to 35-year-old as our communication bullseye for all our markets. She is interested in lifestyle more than style, so looking for fashion that is fabulous but not frivolous. Again, our photography is a key part in representing that. So as I said, we are international. Our three key markets are the UK, the US, and Germany. And obviously multi-channel, so we've got obviously what we're most famous for and what we started with, our catalogs. We are obviously online, and now very recently have shops. We opened very recently our first shop on Kings Road, and then various marketplaces and concessions. So why did Boden need a dam? So as many companies these days, we are going through a digital transformation. That is to say that all our business process and technology is being reviewed to make sure that we can address the needs of our global and multi-channel customers. The aim of this digital transformation is to give them the right product at the right time, relevant and timely communication, and obviously personalized and localized experiences. So this means for our creative teams, the need to produce more content in a shorter amount of time, giving the customer more quickly reacting to trade and everything. And obviously our photography is a key part of any content that we produce, whether it's offline or online. So believe it or not, we could no longer rely on folder structures and spreadsheets. This is why we needed a dam. So the objective of the dam was really to give the teams, creative and marketing, a visual and central place to find all this imagery. And also to be able to tell them where the images are in the production process. So the three criteria that we looked at was search and find, to be able to search and find images based on key criteria. So that is achieved through metadata, which I'll go through in a bit. To also create automation, so that is done through the workflow in the dam. Again, I will go through that in more detail shortly. But also to future-proof, so even if the scope was small, we needed to make sure that it could integrate with any other systems that the rest of the business is currently developing. So the metadata, what we call metadata, is any information that is captured on an image. So where do we get this from? It comes from Shoot initially, where we use a software called Capture One. So information can be added at this point. And then we already add some information or some convention for the image name. So we started looking at what was this convention and what we could get from it. I'll go through that in a second. So what do we capture? So from the metadata, as I said, we would add the information about the people that are working on a shoot, that is for future communication regarding images. If you need to contact the art director, the shoot producer, the information is there on the metadata. Another area that is captured on shoot is the model names. So we have had some, this is to increase the control and governance. We have had some issues with models changing their contract halfway through us, shooting the images, featuring them. So having this information means that we are able to go back and search for a model name or a photographer and quickly remove, if need be, all the images that are attached to that model very quickly. So on the right-hand side is the information that we are getting from the image name. So we set up some convention, and by the image being named in a certain way and being ingested in the DAM, you can start getting information about which year it belongs to, which range it belongs to, and even down to the product code and color of what we are shooting. So I mentioned workflows. Workflows is really to create automation through the process and has helped us remove unnecessary steps. It essentially gives visibility of the image status in the production process. So this is a very simplified diagram representing our production process. So as with digital photography means that you can shoot thousands of images. Obviously, that is a lot of content. We actually shoot around 15,000 images per season. And I've recently had to increase our image count by 25%. That is because we are now shooting every option on a model, which we didn't used to do before. So in terms of our process, it all starts on shoot with the team capturing the image. And we are not allowing everything that is being shot to go on the DAM. So obviously we need to have an editing stage where the art directors are able to select 30 images per shot. We allow them to upload onto the system. So they're using a starring convention. So during the editing, any images that is starred will go onto the DAM. This will also help the graphic designers later down the line to see what the art director's favorite edits are, looking at the number, the starring. So once the art directors have done their editing, the images are uploaded onto the DAM. As I said earlier, on ingest, it's able to read the image name and starts adding metadata from the image name, but also what was captured on shoot gets added here. So the images on upload, we've given them a status of wider select. After that, the art directors are able to go into the DAM and review their edits, perhaps review the starring, and then approve the images that they are happy for our designers to use. So that is a second status, which is ready for design. The designers then obviously start working on all the different assets, and the images start getting into context. So whether it's a catalog layout or an email or a feature, the image is finally getting into context. And obviously that is when there's a lot of proofing, reviews, commercial reviews perhaps, some edit changes. So the final design document is selected in the DAM and pushed through a workflows that moves the images from ready for design to final select. When the image reaches that status, we know that there is going to be some retouching needed. So we want all our imagery to be absolutely perfect. We also need to make sure that the garments, the color of the garments are actually matching in terms of color to what the customer is going to be receiving. So when this workflow is triggered, final select workflow, the images are then automatically sent to our post-production house, which will then start on the retouching. Once the images are approved for color and on the catalog pages maybe, then there's some automation here as well, a summary pro integration where the images come back into our DAM and overrides the initial image and then changes the status to ready to publish. So in a nutshell and in a very simplified way, this is our workflow. So this is just a visu on what it looks in the dam. So you can see the same image out of one shoot. So this is what I said. We could have 30 images of that specific shoot with that specific coat going onto the dam. You can see the image name from which we are pulling metadata, which you saw earlier. But here it's just to demonstrate the different statuses. As well as the starring, which I mentioned the art directors do at the editing stage. Now, as I mentioned, we have other areas of the business also working on improving their technology. Our UX team is specifically with the digital transformation is getting a new web content management system, which is AEM. So we have already built in some integration there so that the images that are approved and ready to publish can be sent to AEM. We are also looking at a new product information management system. This is where additional information about the style can be captured. So which week a style is launching, in how many colors, and what is it going to be outfitted with. So the outfitting information will also, we also need to make sure that is integrated with our DAM, because every image has got an outfit, which we'll need to come back to. So you want to be able to search, you're selling a product, but it's also featuring other products. You want to be able to measure how well the outfits are doing. So this is the integration we are looking at. So in terms of DAM implementation as a project, the 3 key stages that we are looking at is preparation, selection, and engagement. Preparation, so we obviously started by process mapping. So this is really to understand and know what your current processes are. And I think being able to map them out and document it is really important, because when you review it, there are some stages that you can remove. Also very important whilst doing this process mapping is to question everything. Make sure everyone knows why they are doing what they do. You'll find by asking a lot of questions that sometimes people will not know why they're doing something. And that might be because of legacy and there's no reason why they're doing it. So you can remove some stages even without having a system by asking the right questions. Also very important is to analyze the time spent on each task. This is also to be able to then get some KPIs when you review afterwards the time saved by these automation and these integrations that you might be able to gain through the DAM. So think big. Obviously, as I mentioned, with all these the business changes going that every company is going through, it's important to think big, but really important to start small. I cannot stress enough to be able to have a scope that is clear and manageable, because you'll be asked a lot from everyone, but you have to not overpromise and be able to maybe stage your implementation. So starting small is always a good idea. Obviously, the selection process is really important. So what we have found is that attending conferences is always a good thing. I know Henry Stewart obviously organized a lot. The creative operations conferences, the DAM specific conferences, they're all really, really good opportunities for you to understand what is available out there. But most importantly, I'd say, is to network during these events and meet the users. Ask people about their experiences. You know, we have found out some people might have gone through 5 different DAMs before they found the right one for them. So it's engaging with these people that have gone through these experiences. And if possible, you know, get invited to some user groups, as I know a lot of providers organize. Also, during the vendor selection, really important to have clear measures so that you're able to score your selected vendors against your key objectives. But also really important is to get a really good relationship. So you need to be able to speak to them openly, and, you know, at the end of the day, it's a systems, but we are humans, and it's really important to feel comfortable with who you're speaking to. And last but not least, really engage with your teams. Having a core team during the discovery period, during the implementation, and all the way through is really important. Selecting a group of people that will follow you through the project, and really engage them. Excuse me.
That's okay. I'm sorry. Karen was very nice to join us today because she just got the flu and she was quite sick during the last days. So I suppose she's just taking a little bit of water.
Sorry. Thank you, Isabel. So yes, sorry about that. Engaging the core team is really important. Keep them involved during all the steps of the project. They will be your most valuable assets if any project to be successful, really. And last but not least, IT. So as with any systems, there's some technology that is going to be involved, and it's really important to let them know from the very beginning what you are trying to achieve, and keep them informed of all the progress at every stage, because you are going to need them. And if they don't know what you're doing, and if they feel disconnected from the project, you are going to find it difficult to bring them in to help you further down the line. So testing, I've just put a slide on testing because I feel it's really a key part of a successful implementation. So I would stress to allow plenty of time for this, build in some contingency, and really test every single bit from start to finish, and make sure the core team I was referring to earlier is testing as well, because you might think you know what they're expecting, test it for them, but you'll find that they need to see what it looks like and make sure it works for them. So that's about it from me, and I'm open to any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for this testimonial and for sharing with us your experience about them. So I think, Fred, now it's up to you.
Yes, thank you. So really appreciate, Karen, for your time regarding this use case. And this is a clear representation of the nice efforts. Also, thanks to our reseller IO integration, who did a great job in production. So on my side, so I think you know me here since I'm doing some webinars with Honest Towards since a couple of years now, and also on the stage during Honest Towards events. And also I take the time just for you to inform that the latest Honest Towards event in San Diego is approaching, so don't miss the time to meet us during the other 2 days. So on my side, I spent more or less the 20 last years working in agencies, so because I'm patient and so as a photographer, like to manage libraries of assets, and since the last 7 years at the top of our pre-sales and marketing by DALIM software. Oops. So, So my first slide is all about, in fact, the what agencies are facing every day. So it's, as Karen was explaining, it's a lot of content everywhere that you have to synchronize and publish on all the channels. So, and that's a real challenge today, because it's always a question of time and money. And this is everything we're talking about the industry 4.0. So we were talking about business 4.0, marketing 4.0, but whatever at the end, something has changed. And that's a real challenge for most large organizations to figure out. And one of the slides is so much important, because as soon as you are looking at large organizations, but I would say even for most of them, it's digital transformation is always a challenge. So it's we met so many people using a couple of DAM systems inside the company, and just they are still struggling to manage their assets. So it's important really to tackle all the KPIs of customers in one single source of truth. So it's all about, of course, the user experience. It's all about the new capabilities of the system. It's all about the mobile. And at the end of the day, we need to break down the silos. So, of course, as we saw, and as I'm saying every time, one of the first needs you need is to find one unique source of truth for all your assets. Of course, we need a couple of tool sets, a couple of features to manage all that content. So this is just a list of what we can do today regarding all the automation, the way to manage and transform the assets to support any type of assets. But the main thing is, of course, all about to start with the DAM. And as Karen was explaining, you need to start one time. So the DAM is, as you know, is this unique source of truth where you can manage everything, when you can distribute the content everywhere. And something also it's important is, especially as soon as you have to make a selection of DAM, is because today everything has changed. It's thousands of solutions everywhere. So reason why it's important that some organization really started to get some core features to the DAM. So you need to be able to, of course, to ingest, to secure, to enrich, to transform. So that's, these kind of things are very important, and something we try to share during all the DAM events alongside the year. And in fact, on our side, the ES is a clear representation of that goal. So it means this unique single source of truth. Of course, it has to be in the cloud today, because brands are searching for a quick access to their content without spending tons of money with the IT or something like that. So security is so much more important, especially in Europe with the GRPD things since the last months. It's all about the user experience too. It's so much important, and we'll see that later on. Personalization, and today we can even call that a mass personalization, in order, of course, at the end to get a performance DAM system to manage any type of large files. And this is a clear representation of our goals today. So if I'm just back to a couple of slides regarding the DAM. So of course we can get a lot of experience, and I would say as every customer is a witness of that experience. So sometimes you need to organize the content managed by folders. Sometimes you need to get the ability to organize just using a simpler UI, just using search, as for example. It's important to be able to manage also the capabilities with all your metadata. This one is also interesting because we see so many people using tons of software outside of the DAM, and what we try to do on our side is also to bring such experience that, as for example, you saw yesterday on the Adobe Max using Lightroom. So this is more or less something we can do today. One thing is also important is the ability to capture some details. And something we have here is the ability to get a color accurate platform where you can really check every details of your amazing pictures. You can mark up all your files, whatever it's a picture, it's a video, it's a 3D files. But as we saw with Karen, what makes the difference at the end? How I can leverage the DAM in 2018, okay? And workflow is one of these key features because every customer has its own way to manage the approval cycle of the asset. And we know that most of the time, people are still using, and that's one of the Gartner reports last year, using Dropbox, Drive, WeTransfer, and everybody of us, we are the witness of such things. So we receive so many things. And if your DAM has the real workflow engine, that is to say the ability to really map your business. That is to say how you are working and to manage this approval cycle between you, the agencies, suppliers, and the ground. And I just put this one, which is just exactly more or less the same as Boden. From the capture to the production to the distribution, you should be able to manage all that steps. And the clear representation of such a workflow is yes today. So we're talking about metadata. So one of the challenges in 2018 is also about the machine learning. So I said every time, yes, that's nice to have, but it's so much more important. And any DAM expert will tell you, as soon as you're managing large libraries of assets and features, museum, etc., it's so important to be able to manage your own taxonomy because you have your own keywords that you want to apply on your assets. Then we're talking about user experience. So as I was saying, sometimes you need to organize your content based on folders. I know that's not the, I will say, the up-to-date things, but try to manage terabytes of assets and you will understand. But of course, for ground, it's so much more important to get a simple portal where you can easily search using some facet to drive some of your contents. So it can be something like that, or it can be something like that. So the system has to be so much flexible in order to get the right user experience. One other thing also important is about the capabilities to transform and reuse the content, because today you have to manage, of course, your picture, the original picture, but from the same picture, you should be able to transform the asset for eShop for your website. So important to be able to reuse that content. And as we saw with Boden, and I will say this is up to date regarding the Adobe Max yesterday, but it's so important also for the creative operations, because these guys want to stay in design, they want to stay in Photoshop. This is a place where they are working. So they have to get a simple connector, which is a plugin where they can search, where they can retrieve any assets, when they can manage revision, where they can check in, check out. So in order to build pages or to do any creative artwork. So, and at the end, so you can share that content on such user interface or which are the same. This one is another experience you can get very simple. So I know that everybody knows how Photolia by Adobe is working, and this is more or less today one of the trends in terms of UI. A simple search field, you can search, type some keywords using some taxonomy and retrieve your assets. Okay. At the end of the day, it's important also to be able to manage your KPIs, how your assets are performing alongside your workflow. So yes, it's a clear representation of that goals, or the ability to manage all that contents with something we can call a market cocktail, as Restory Group is saying. And DAM is definitely the single source of truth to help your marketing style, so in order to bring much more awareness and more engagement, which is very the most important thing. And for us, something we are trying to do in order to help the people, in order to help customers to figure out these challenges, is the best way is to use live a demo scenario. So something we are doing with equity companies software in the UK, so with a lot of demo scenario to test, to try the system. So much more important is, and this is the best proof you can show to your customers. So reason why ES is part of the accredited DAM vendors. And also I will just highlight this last update of your digital workspace from Restory Group, where you can find the software as your new station in this map. So more or less, this is what I wanted to share with you regarding some trends and challenges in a DAM. So now feel free to ask us any questions.
Thanks, Fred, for this presentation and for all this information. So I see that we have some questions. Karen, the first one is for you.
Yes.
This is about your creative team, and we have the question, is your creative team centralized, or is it at one location or different locations? Could you explain us how your creative team is working and how is it organized?
So by creative teams, I mean the art directors, so the shoot teams, the designers, and the art workers. And we are all in-house in one building. So yeah, that makes things a lot easier, obviously.
Okay, and is along the process, I think you explained us during the process that you are working with remote location for retouching. So
yes, so our repro houses. So once the images are shot, selected, they are sent to repro, and we are using workflows on image status for that, and some automation so that the images can be sent to the right place at the right time to be retouched. So yes, we have a company retouching our mini photography. We have a different place retouching our women's wear photography. So obviously it reads the metadata and the status of the image and then sends to the correct repro houses accordingly.
okay, so maybe one more for you, Karen, because I think it's alongside with the same the follow-up to this question. How do users find the different images when they are into the DAM system? Could you explain how they search, how they browse? What is the way? Yeah.
So obviously we've given different access to different users because so the ones who see the most are the shoot team because they want to see what has been captured, obviously. So production also sees everything, but design and artwork, they only can see the images that are ready for design upwards in the process. The way they browse is obviously they get a brief maybe saying, oh, we want to do a feature about the Richmond trousers. They can search by the code of the product and find all the images. Obviously, depending whether they're working on catalog or on web, they might want a different image type. So I mentioned we've got different image type, lifestyle imagery, which is generally shot outside on location. And then obviously we've got studio photography where it's much more controlled. The lighting is more controlled. There's probably less repro needed on the images. But depending, they can narrow down the search. If they know they want a web image, they can then use some filters to narrow down their search. So they can search by product code. They can search by image type. Maybe if they know that we usually shoot by stories, so they can also search by for that story and then narrow it down with a product code. They can search by, if we're doing a feature on Valentine's Day and they know they need some products that are red, they can type in red and then get a selection of images based on the color. That's kind of broadly how they use it.
So if I understand well, there's many ways actually to get information or to find pictures and different way of searching, even using some color information. Thanks.
Yes.
Fred, I have one question for you. This one is addressed to you. How is DALIM managing taxonomy inside this ES solution? Can you control vocabulary? Can you import control vocabulary like the one we found in Lightroom or Capture One? Could you explain if it's possible to get?
Yes. As I was saying, so using taxonomy is, and you can see that alongside this here on some iSWOT webinars. It's the most advanced way in order to drive the right content to your assets. And of course, it's so important for us to give the tools to the customers managing their own taxonomy. So most of the time, I would say it depends. If you are working for a museum, some libraries, they have their own taxonomy. So you can import this taxonomy in order to apply this taxonomy in the system. But you can also start from nothing and create your own taxonomy, or you can do a mix of both. So that's something you can customize at the top of the system. And the most important is also to be able to drive some user rights with that taxonomy, because you should be able to manage multiple taxonomies, and you have to be able to apply a taxonomy for one customer, one other taxonomy for the other. So you have a complex user rights management that has to be achieved and supported in the system. And this is exactly what we are doing with some great enhancements after years and in our taxonomy management.
Okay, thanks. I have another question actually addressed to both of you. If you would be working into a decentralized environment, what would be the way you would organize the file around the van? Would you use specific OPI type of solution, or what would be your best recommendation? Maybe Fred, you can start.
Yeah, I can talk about that because something like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was working with some API management alongside my production. So I think this time is over. Today you have so much capabilities between the network, etc., to manage even large assets. At one time, of course, you have to manage sometimes very large TIFF files, as for example, and you cannot use emails or whatever. So you have to use the DAM system. Something also, I think, which is more important today than the OPI management is more smarter way. First of all, and especially for large organizations worldwide, you should be able to manage multiple sites. So instead of sending pictures from one site to the other, you have this multiple site management where you can really optimize the usage of assets from one site to the other. And then after, in terms of technology we are using, as for example, I see that with a plugin, so you can use some CMS API to drive some of the content using some it's not really a low resolution or high resolution, but you can at least start a page in InDesign with just low-res images based, and these images can be located wherever you want in the world on multiple sites. They are just driven by HTTP links, and at any time you can switch from low-res to high-res.
So Karen, did you had any experience with remote site, or you never faced this situation?
Sorry, what was it? I'm sorry if I misunderstood the question. Is it around APIs? Is it the question?
No, I think no. The question is, if you would be working in a decentralized environment where you would get a creative team, dispatch between different locations.
Sorry.
Yeah. How would you? What would be your recommendation actually? What would you recommend somebody what they should do?
Well, so certainly making sure that people work in the same way despite being in different locations. So often what creates problems is every same teams but in different buildings have got different systems. So first of all, as I mentioned, it's mapping the process in each location, make sure they're aligned. That's I'd say the first thing I would do. And then obviously if there's some kind of integration, like communication to be made between the different locations, is to go on site, of course, and like test anything that needs to move across different places. That
okay,
that answers the question.
Yeah, one other one for you, Karen. How long did it take to implement, and what was the key issue at the start before starting the DAM project?
Okay, so that's a good question, because so we pretty much spent 6 months just going through process mapping, and it was mainly focused around our catalog, because this is kind of our key starting point. And out of this process mapping, there were 3 key areas that seemed to be the main problems. One was, and it still is, and I think it is across all businesses, a critical path. Teams tended to work on separate critical path and not a one critical path. But secondly was just people pulling their hair out, not being able to find where anything was, because everything is just saved on different servers. Everyone names things different ways. So we spent 6 months really mapping out the process and then looking at where are the key bugbears for each team. And as I said earlier, asking a lot of questions, where is the time spent, and seeing where most of the time is lost. And obviously it was in finding and searching images, so that's where the DALIM came from. So 6 months of kind of prep, process mapping and analysis. Then obviously there was the selection process. I think that went through pretty quickly. But from the moment we had selected our vendors, we had 3 months to implement. And as I said, this was phase 1. So really the scope was very clear. We made, we didn't want to give the world from the get-go. So we started small, but even with I mean, I say it's small, it's still involved. It's huge. It makes a huge difference, but starting small. So yes, obviously 3 months to implement phase 1, and then we're now into phase 2 a couple of months after. So yeah, 6 months of prep and really 6 months to get in a very good place.
Okay, I have one question. What is the DAM you are using? This is for you, Karen, I suppose.
We are using DALIM.
So you're using ESDAM, so the one Fred was
yes.
Yeah. Okay. One more question for you, Karen. How your creative team is working with the DAM environment alongside the creative suite? So
yes. So as Fred was saying earlier, because the creatives they're on Photoshop, they're on InDesign, so we needed to give them that kind of the plugin basically. So thanks to being on the Creative Cloud now and having being able to make use of some plugins, we've got kind of it's a replication of the DAM on InDesign, where they can use the metadata and search for products in the same way they would on the web browser, and that brings up images that they can just drag and drop onto their InDesign pages, and that also uses placement images. So as well as being able to be on an iRes workflow, we've got obviously iRes images that are on our system. For the designers, they get the placement images, so it doesn't slow down their files or make the files so big that they can't be handled. So that's one area where it's linked with the Creative Cloud. We also there's this area of the DAM where you can create private collections. So when they're working on a specific project, they can drag images that they'd like to use and finally select them, and being able to export the images to the correct web specification to then place in Photoshop. What else can I think of?
No, I think you already give her a good explanation about the way it's working together with the DAM and the Creative Suite for creative people. Yeah, one question. You talked, Karen, about Adobe Experience Manager, where you are managing your web content. And we have one question asking if the ESDAM system is the internal backend system for that, and what is the external use of Adobe Experience Manager?
So the way we will be sending our images to AEM is internal, so through ES, which is able to read the image status, convert them to the right format, and then in an area of AEM where they can be picked up by the users. Now, in terms of so the AEM is being used by our UX teams, which is we are going to be using this to publish our websites, do all our affiliates work. So we're going to start getting a lot of information once this is implemented. Number of clicks per image, what is doing well, what is not doing well. So yeah.
Okay. I have some more questions to you, Karen. Within the workflow management, did it improve the follow-up of the project in the NAM?
Well, yeah, certainly in terms of time and effort, like process optimization, there's a lot of time saved, not having to, you know, just spend a lot of time searching for images saved in different folders like that. In time and effort, visibility, and then control and governance. It has helped with all of that. So our projects are running, yeah, more efficiently. And also with the repro integration that we've got now, as soon as an image is approved, it comes back to us and there's no lags. We've removed quite a lot of the lags that we were finding in our processes, in our projects.
Okay, and one more and for you, and I think this will be the last one because time is running out for us today. So, and this is, I think, the question which is coming with the one before. So how did you measure the performance of your assets?
Yes, okay. So in terms of KPIs, so the time spent on the process mapping analysis, we've asked every team to really tell us how much time they spent on each task so we can go back and review the performance on that. That we, well, if ever there was to be another, no, sorry, excuse me. We have often had on the website images that either were not ready to use or had not been retouched appropriately. So this is certainly going to be something that we're going to be able to see and measure the success of, you know, well, I don't know if we'll reach 100%, but certainly a better percentage of, you know, what is being used is actually ready to use and approved by all the different areas. And we also, I guess, I mean, at Boden, we care about the people who work there. So it's just how they feel. So we'll constantly send surveys, and that's how we can also measure if they find their work better to do, like now that they've got a system.
Okay, interesting. I like that last one. Yeah, I think we're just approaching the end of this webinar today. Fred, Karen, is there any point you would like to add to end up this webinar?
I think just,
no, thank you very much.
Yeah, just thank you, Karen.
So thank you to both of you. Thank you for sharing with us your experience, Fred, Karen. I was really happy to hold this webinar today with you and with Henry Stewart. So I just have now to wish you a good end of the day. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for participating to this webinar. Bye-bye.